Paul's next. And who's after? And Louis after Paul. Okay.
My question is kind of for the whole panel, and I mean, we have a lot of issues. I mean, the scale of problem of the Leviathan is huge. So I'm kind of curious what each of you think is maybe the top two issues that you think are important for us to focus on that you think will move us towards liberty, kind of considering both importance and practicality.
That's a very difficult questions for us intellectuals. No, it may be, and I'm going to keep my comment for 45 seconds. It may be that the issues that are best addressed are the issues on which there is already some popular support. Like, for instance, opinion polls. Drugs is not my thing. Well, actually, if drugs were my thing, I would not have moved to the U.S. Of course, I would have gone anywhere else in the world before moving to the U.S. But public opinion shows that. Public opinion polls show that slightly more than half Canadians are in favor of legalizing soft drugs. So that might be an easy issue. It's not the most important for me, but whatever we can gain is good. This being said, before I say something else stupid, I'm going to.
Well, I think one question here is how do you individuate? I mean, there are different sizes of issues, right? And you want to have fairly big packets here. So among the big packets, I mean, I do think the drug laws are number one. Now, a big problem here is, of course, the United States, which we're not in. So if we legalize drugs here, what they're going to do with our relations with the Americans is, of course, a big problem. But one thing I think it is clearly going to do is that an example. I mean, I think a lot of American states would, if they could, vote in favor of legalizing drugs. And I think that if Canada set the standard here, that would make a big difference there. But, that's a very tricky. I mean, the trouble with politics, practical politics, is extremely messy, as we all know. So the question is, what next comparable size thing? Well, of course, there's health care. And I do think that it's terribly important that privatization of, that the right of doctors and so forth to practice medicine independently of the government-imposed health system is really important, and that we ought to do something about that. Again, as a practical measure, here's one of the typical problems you have. I mean, do you just say, let's abolish OHIP altogether, which is probably the most popular single large-scale political initiative in Canada, I suppose. I mean, it's an incredibly robust one. No party has gone on record as saying anything like that. Now, we can go on record as saying something like that, but we're more likely to get votes if we say, well, let's add to the system the right of people. Let's have a two-tier system. Indeed, let's do that, and let's reject the one of the rallying cries of the people who started this crazy system is we don't want a two-tier system, as if there was some kind of violation of people's rights by having a two-tier system. That's crazy. It's like objecting to the existence of Chevrolets and Cadillacs in the same country. It's stupid. All right. Going down from there, well, it's harder to know what's next because there are so many things, and I do think that part of the art would be identifying an issue where there's some chance of making a real dent in the public with an issue that's of some consequence. I mean, I do think that Wisconsin kind of stole a march on us in abolishing public sector unions, but it's certainly a thing that we might consider trying to make an issue of too.
The usual answer to this sort of a question is, well, education, because that's the way people learn, or money, because money is very important in the economy, so let's end the Fed, or drugs, or war, or maybe health, as Jan was talking about, or maybe welfare, because it's broken up the black family in the U.S. And created crime and havoc there. But As an Austrian economist, I reject the question, because the question ignores what we call in Austrian economics marginal analysis. It commits the diamonds water paradox fallacy. What's the diamonds water paradox fallacy? The way that goes is, well, which is more important, diamonds or water? Well, if we got rid of all of water, we'd all be dead in about a day. If we got rid of all of diamonds, I mean, diamonds are a girl's best friend, but, you know, life would go on pretty much without any diamonds compared without water. Well, then why is it that diamonds cost so much and water costs so little? Well, we've got a lot of water and very few diamonds. But the fallacy is looking at it in terms of categories. Water, diamonds. What you have to do is look at it in the category of a cup full of water or a cup full of diamonds. That's how you find out why diamonds are more expensive, because a cup full of diamonds is more expensive than a cup full of water, whereas if we were in the position of buying or selling all of water or all of diamonds, water would be a lot more valuable than all of diamonds. So when you say, well, which category? Is it education? Is it money? Is it health? What you're doing is looking at it in categories. You're not looking at it as individuals. I have a co-author, Bill Barnett, and I've co-authored maybe 50 articles, 60 articles with him. And sometimes he asks me, well, of the 5 articles that we've got going, which of them should I work on? And my answer is always, whichever is the most fun. We're supposed to have fun. So work on the issue that's the most fun. Sometimes for me it's education, sometimes it's health, sometimes it's welfare, whatever it is. Some people have comparative advantages. I'll pick on Tunya again. Her thing is more education and taxes, I think, than anything else. Other people it might be drugs. Certainly with Mark it's not education, it's more drugs. So my advice to you as to which to work on is whichever is the most fun and whichever is you have a comparative advantage in. Some people have more experience in some things, so they should stick to that if they want to accomplish more. About the Wisconsin stuff, I've written 3 or 4 articles on LouRockwell.com taking a very different view. The view that most people take in our camp is, hooray for the governor of Wisconsin because he's smashing these public sector unions. And I said, whoa, wait a second. The governor of Wisconsin? The governor of Wisconsin is in charge of a big robber gang. So we have to have a little, modesty here or sensibility, or we have to look at it a little bit more carefully. We can't say, hooray for the government of Wisconsin. I mean, for a libertarian to say, hooray for the government, you got to say, whoa, let's think about that a minute. So what I'm saying is, on the one hand, it's sort of like when the Nazis are fighting the commies. You root for both of them. Both evil. Don't just think that the public sector unions are the only evil here. The goddamn government of Wisconsin is also evil. Now, I don't say that, when push comes to shove, which way I'm going to go. I'm just saying we have to be a little bit more nuanced about it. That's the word I was looking for. Nuance. We have to realize that the government of Wisconsin, or any government, is not an entirely innocent kind of an institution.
Pierre wants a quick rejoinder, and then we go to Lewis, Norris, and Michael.
Yes, again, I think, I agree with many things.
85%.
But I think that, again, we have to look at least as much at the consequences as at the fundamental principles that we might find under this. And the consequences of the governor of Wisconsin disappearing tomorrow are actually 0, because he's going to be replaced by one exactly like him. The consequences of the bureaucrats of Wisconsin losing power or losing any interest in their job are actually monumental, because they are the ones who actually conceive the regulations, or at least enforce them.
They're the permanent government instead
exactly,
of the government.
Exactly. So I think that between the two of them, yes, hooray for the governor of Wisconsin.
I'm just for a little more nuance. I mean, the whole idea of unions, the reason for unions is that the capitalist is going to exploit labor. So that sort of justifies private sector unions if you believe in this nonsense. But public sector unions are totally unjustified because the government, supposedly in the left-wing view, is the referee, it's the good guy. The government can't exploit anyone, so why should you have a union against the government? Now, I agree with 85% of what he said. I think that the bottom line is that we have to support the government of Wisconsin in its attack on the public sector unions. I'm just saying we should be nuanced about it. We shouldn't go whole hog. We shouldn't say, hooray, government and bad unions. We should say bad unions and also bad government. And if we had to choose, there are consequences, and here we agree. So maybe we have a reconciliation here. All I'm saying is, let's not forget ever that government is evil.
Okay.
Well, to add something, I mean, of course, he's right about nuancing, but the relevant variable here isn't fun, although it always is a relevant variable. But it is, maximizing political returns. Now, that's a dangerous game because but the point is, if you're going to try to make a statement to the public, votes are the things, are the currency. And so the question is, how many votes can you get without ceasing to be a libertarian party? And that's, of course, a very difficult issue. But I think the answer is quite a few. And people need to work on it. I mean,